So big changes in your life recently.
Yeah.
The Team Liquid situation. I mean, you've been synonymous with that organisation for as long as I've known who you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, leaving, you know, blazing a trail for yourself. I mean, it must have been pretty daunting.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's several reasons. The first one being that, you know, I don't really like living in Europe very much. You know,
Okay.
my friends, my family, they're in New York City. They're in the tri-state area in the United States, and you know, I kind of want to just be there. And you know, this job, one of the great things about it is it allows me to do it from anywhere. So, you know, the stuff I did at Team Liquid, people might think that I did interviews, but that's not really that was not really even like the job that I did. What I did was I was an administrator. I was a manager kind of, and I managed a lot of projects for TL. You know, to you know, all the stuff that we were doing with the new websites, you know, all kind of stuff. And while I'm like, you know, I was perfectly adequate at it, it wasn't something that I really, you know, enjoyed very much. I really like, you know, producing content, even though it might not be the highest level of like position in an organization. It's still way more fun, and you know, I like doing it. And this is kind of a thing that you know, I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing. So, and I think I'm good at it. So it's gonna work out, I think.
I think some people will look at recent events surrounding Team Liquid. You know, some players leaving, from especially in Hearthstone and Mars, and now you. And people might be, you know what it's like in esports. Everyone gets doom and gloom. You know, is there anything to that? Should people be worried?
No,
for Team Liquid?
I think it'll be fine. Like, I think that there's the issue right now is they don't have a Dota team, and that, you know, you just got to find the right fit for that kind of thing. If I had to put you know, odds on it, I would say that I think that they will have a Dota team by TI, but who knows? You know, like I'm not really so deeply involved on the team side of things. That's mostly Victor or Naz.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have complete faith in how, you know, he works and how the organization is, so I think it'll be fine.
We're at the start of a rumour about Team Liquid as well. It's
Okay.
only just started in the last few days. League of Legends team.
I can't say anything about anything, so...
I love it.
No
there we go.
comment.
We got to get this on Reddit. We got to...
There's a no comment, so...
At least you know to say no comment. Like
What?
people in esports, there's so many people in esports that don't understand. The best thing sometimes is no comment. They're like,
Yeah.
well, the thing is, and they try and talk the way out of it, and it just ends up a disaster. But so back to you in your post-Team Liquid life. eSports Express.
Yeah, eSports Express.
Main focus for you right now.
It is, yeah. I'm going to be working with two other people. Mark, his ID is Sir Jolt, and another guy whose name is Joe, but I don't think anyone really knows him. But he's a teenager.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So we get a lot of applications for eSports Express. We get a lot of people that write articles, ask for stuff, and you know, most of them are bad. And the guy,
Give us
he's
an
very
example
good.
of a really bad one.
I can't. They're gonna feel bad on. But,
you don't need to name the name. Just give it going.
Okay. Let me think. Just people that they write an article, repeat the same joke 100 times in like 4 paragraphs, or people that you know, like they write an article and it's just repeating Twitch memes over and over, or there's no punchline. You know, humor.
Anyone ever used the word kappa just randomly in a submission?
You know, stuff like that. I mean, like,
awful.
humor is while it is a very subjective thing, there is a bit of a science to it.
Yeah.
You know, you wanna not waste words. You wanna like have twists at the end of sentences. You know, things like that are pretty common. And you know, it's not an easy thing to do. Not to like make it seem like what we're doing is rocket science or anything, but we work pretty hard on all the articles that we do, and we're going to be having to ramp up the volume of the number that we do pretty significantly. So I'm pretty excited because it's very fun to write. You know, like, and there's no shortage of drama in any scene. So
not in esports as a whole. Are you worried about that? Because here's something that, you know, I worked in comedy as well. I used to be a stand-up, funnily enough.
Really?
Yeah, it's genuine. Yeah.
Okay.
Back in a past life. And I know when you're writing bits and you're writing jokes, you know, it can be very hard to produce it frequently. You know, you'll have one bit that's like really funny, and then you'll try and riff on it, and the rest, you know, well, I can't use that. You've got to get rid of it. So, are you worried that you're going to struggle to hit that kind of quota, you know, and write something funny about everything that's happening?
I think that there's enough. There's enough. There's always the issue of the week in every every scene, you know, and you're able to, you know, maybe not every single article is going to be super 100 A+, but you know, I always feel that you know, it doesn't have to be. I think that as long as you produce good quality, I think that it'll come. Like I feel that the limiting factor for us wasn't so much that there's dramatic stuff happening. It's mostly that we didn't have time to really spend and write this stuff. So, you know, we always have different ideas. You know, like it doesn't always have to be the same kind of article too. You can have different kind of stuff that goes on.
So why satire? Why is it so important to you as a person?
I mean, I didn't set out to be like, well, I'm going to change the world with satire or something like that. It's just something that, you know, I've always been able to. I've always been a good rewriter. I've always been able to, you know, do things like change song lyrics or make jokes about situations, and it was always, you know, like I've always wanted to produce content that's funny and it comes naturally, and it's kind of like a dream job almost, you know, doing what you want to do. And it turns out that people seem to like, because esports, you know, in the end, it is kind of something that's not super serious.
No, like, yeah, it can't be. Right?
Yeah, it's games, and people are playing games, and people treat it so seriously sometimes, and there's terrible stuff that happens sometimes. It really, I think that the scene needs some humor and levity in like all these situations. You know, like recently in Starcraft, there was the whole language controversy and all that stuff that happened.
That incident. Well, that was interesting. I read the one that went up on eSports Express. I thought it was very interesting because I thought it handled it perhaps a bit more sensitively than some of the other stuff that I saw.
Yeah, I mean, like I try to, you know, like I'm a very liberal person. I have certain views about how things should be. So I'm not going to say that eSports Express is like a political, like neutral, politically neutral publication, because I don't think you can be. You always have to have a position on something when you write an article. Someone is the butt of the joke. Yeah. In every article, and in that article, it turns out it's the people that think it's okay to say stuff like that. Yeah. And you know, you might not agree with the article. I think there are some people that didn't understand it. I
was going to say. I mean, that was one of my actual questions I was going to ask you, but to continue anyway.
But you know, that's fine. You know, like we got a bunch of messages. People like, wow, I loved it. You know, I love that you guys are taking a stand on stuff like that. It's similar to the when there was a all-female tournament in League of Legends. We wrote an article about it that, you know, was a big parody of the people that make fun of that kind of tournament. People that kind of bash girls and like, you know, they're ruining games, you know, that kind of thing. And then we got some support from people that are like that because they don't understand satire. They're just like, yeah, I agree with everything in this article. It's like, okay, you don't really understand it, but fine.
So let's explore that a little bit, because, you know, everyone likes to bust out the SpiderMan quote, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And I know this is something that, you know, we've talked about. When you put a satirical article out there, for me, there is a real danger that people in our particular space don't understand it. For whatever reason, it could be educational, it can be linguistic, you know, a variety of reasons why people might not pick up on something being satirical. Stupidity, I mean, that's another one. It's got to be said. But I've had people link me your articles and you know, and say this is proof that this happened, and I'm like, no, actually, it's the exact opposite. Because there's no way it did happen. That's satirical.
Thankfully, we are a satire website, and it's obvious that we're a satire website. And when it's clear that it's a satire website, you don't have to. I can attribute quotes to whoever I want. You know, I can have Barack Obama say that, you know, J-Dong sucks at StarCraft, and it's fine because it's clear that it is. Now, if someone interprets it wrongly, well, we treat our audience like they're intelligent. We're catering to the people that understand it. You know, so I'm not gonna, you know, like have to write a disclaimer at the top, like the things that we say in here are not true. Like, I mean,
happened to me that I used to edit a satirical magazine. It was way back when I was at university. And I wrote a particular piece that just seemed to be very inflammatory. It was back when I think the British government, we were trying to campaign for change. There was a clause that wouldn't let people who were openly homosexual be teachers.
Okay.
So I wrote it in the style of a columnist from the Sun newspaper, Barry Gushel, I used to call him, instead of Gary Bushell, who was a real columnist.
Okay.
So, and I wrote a piece that was basically saying, you know, this is how gay people recruit and all this, like, obviously the things homophobes say. And because it was too potentially inflammatory if people didn't understand it, we had to slap a big disclaimer on it. And I was like,
but your whole site isn't
its
that,
potency.
though, right?
It loses its potency.
But if every single thing you write is satire, I think people they'll get it, like, if they're on the site. And I think that the thing is about satire is that there are, like, back when you wrote the thing about who's behind eSports Express and whatever,
Well, we'll talk about that as well.
you know, you said there's a social responsibility for satire, and I do actually agree with you about that. I think that there is a level of responsibility for a site that gets a lot of traffic that makes, even though it's humor and people can be like, well, you know, whatever, you know, it's humor. I do think there's some level of responsibility that I should not be making fun of the little guy. You know, like, not necessarily like I should be making fun of, like, not making fun of Team Liquid or making fun of EG or that kind of thing, but more that if someone is, you know, did something wrong, like, let's say a tournament administrator messed up, or some guy, like, honest mistake, things like that. If some guy's getting beaten down already, like, unless he really deserves it, like they cheated or something.
You don't want to pile on.
Yeah, I'm not there to, like, rail on someone, beat a dead horse, that kind of thing. You know, it's more to call out a little bit what we feel about is someone who hasn't been called out enough before. You know. So that I feel that there is a little bit of responsibility there.
So that was interesting that you bring that up. One of my issues was only really the relationship between Team Liquid and eSports Express, and I know some people still disagree.
Well, now there's no relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Now
you're happy.
So, but I mean, let's say for example, back when there was, you know, let's say, I don't know, if a direct competitor to Team Liquid in some particular area had done something that was particularly stupid, and then you wrote an article lampooning that. You see, there's some people that would look at that and think that was problematic.
See, the thing is that the perception of bias is a lot stronger than actual bias.
Yeah, of course.
So the situation is that we actually have to be harsher on Team Liquid than other organizations, and because if you're not, then people will be like, you're biased. Similarly, like the TL writers have a problem covering tournaments that TL does well, because they'll get called out on it. For example, when Team Liquid and EG had a partnership in Pro League and they predicted that their team would be #1, and people were like, they're all over that when they didn't finish high. When they did poorly, they were like, this is evidence of bias.
It was a crazy prediction, I think.
It wasn't, though.
Yeah.
A lot of people predicted that they would do well. Maybe not necessarily #1, but...
I think I would have erred on the side of caution if I'd been associated with them. That's what I would have done. I'd have gone second or third and just be, you know.
But they're going to predict the way they want to, like,
of course,
like they gotta rank it the way they think is going to happen, you know? And at the time, you know, I'm not going to say it was right, because predictions are never right or wrong. It's just what the information you had at the time. But, you know, it's tough. It's tough when you're associated with an organization and you're doing news. It's just like ESPN. Like they have issues with covering the SEC, covering the NFL when they have these, like, TV deals with them. People think they're pushing an issue, like censoring certain, because NFL right now is, I don't know if you follow.
I do follow NFL. Unfortunately, I'm an Oakland Raiders fan, so I've kind of just tuned out for this
You would
season.
be an Oakland Raiders fan, but they got their win, right? So.
Well, that's it. It was all worth it, guys.
Yeah.
No, it's awful. It makes me just sick what's happened this season.
Yeah. So like all that stuff about criminals and like beating of domestic violence and like the beating of children, drugs, all that stuff. And they're saying ESPN's downplaying it, and because they have these TV deals with the NFL, and just like they have no win situation there. They're
they don't.
Pissing off the NFL, or.
I mean, I got to say, for me, I think this is interesting because we're moving into an area now where we're starting to get these lines that can't really be crossed. We've got relationships now between broadcasters and journalists.
Yeah.
Things like this, you know. I mean, I'm sure in a not too distant future, I might get accused of bias if I've got to write something about Twitch, for example, because here I am getting paid to interview you.
You're gonna have to write about the Amazon stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So, are you ever worried? I mean, are you ever you in particular?
Well, not anymore. I think that you know, like I think that we're just gonna call it like it is. If someone deserves to be lampooned, they're gonna get lampooned. I've never had a situation where we've made fun of someone and they've been like, I'm very offended at your article and I don't like you anymore. You know, it's always like, okay, maybe we deserve that. And I think that's more just trusting judgment. I think it's not personal at all. I don't like. I think I wrote an article about Mason, I think it was, a Dota player, and it was about how he was he held his own high school reunion to make fun of everyone else because he's now playing at TI and like winning a lot of money. And it's just like Mason holds most obnoxious high school reunion ever. And I remember talking to Mason about it, and he's like, yeah, I didn't really enjoy that article, but you know, there's no hard. It's like, how can you really get mad at something?
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
You know?
I mean, it's like I like to think that anyone, you know, I break news about people, you know, secrets effectively, and I put them in the public domain.
That's way more serious than, you know,
exactly.
Jokey
And
stuff, so.
I like to think they would understand. I'm just doing my job. You know, I hope no one's going to fall out with me about it. So, doing the job. Kickstarter.
Yeah, Kickstarter.
Let's talk about it because I think, first of all, I think you know, perhaps people don't realize this. I fully supported the Kickstarter. We actually talked about it before it happened, and my name's on there. If you bid $25, you get a call into one of my shows, and that's super awesome for you guys. But
we're going to deliver on that 100%.
Well, yeah, I got to, right, or it's game over for Richard Lewis. But you know. How have things been going in the Kickstarter?
The Dota one went quite well. We funded 13,000, which is more than right now. It's at 16, and I think it's just about over.
Okay.
We funded the target amount in about 8 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, it was quite good. But the Starcraft one not doing so well right now. It's it's about maybe between 15-20% of it in about a day or two.
Yeah.
Which is problematic because most of the Kickstarters, you know, like kind of attention goes on in the first couple of days. So you really have two options. You can kind of push and try and drive more to it, or you can give up. Those are the two kind of options for it.
Which one are you going for?
I don't know yet. We gotta see because the Starcraft community is, you know, like I love, you know, Starcraft. It's my original game, you know, that kind of thing. But the community is it's a bit of a it's like a damaged person right now. They hate all things when it comes to funding, and it's a complete opposite with Dota because Dota's like Valve even like just outright approves that kind of crowdfunding and people love doing it. And Starcraft's like the opposite. Like there's some guys that did projects that kind of ruined it for everyone, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't you know, blame anyone. You know, I'm not like, well, your community sucks, you know. It's kind of understandable. We knew it would be challenging. Am I disappointed that we're not funding more? Yeah, of course. You know, I thought that, you know, like our record of producing, you know, free content for everyone for quite a long time, and that people can hopefully trust me in that sense that I'm not going to like go out and steal your money and disappear off the face of the earth. That's not, you know, obviously like I've worked for Starcraft.
I was going to say you'd be playing the long con.
Yeah, that's like I'm
the
like
longest con.
5 years of like, you know, working for $8,000 or something like to run off with it. You know that's, but you know, it is what it is. If it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, then we just have to find other ways.
But is it hurtful though? Because for me, I think it's great that you've been so widely embraced by the Dota community. I can see them as a community that would totally get Satire. Right? You know, they they like to have a bit of fun at themselves, and actually they don't seem to get sucked into drama.
The Valve, they read it,
Yeah.
you know, and they're talking to me, telling me about it, and you know, we make fun of Valve all the time because they have a very good company like personality, so you can make fun of them because
of course,
you know, like they're common invincible almost. Like no one's gonna take offense at Valve when you make fun of them because you know they're Valve. Yeah. So same thing with Blizzard. You can make fun of Blizzard, and they'll like Mike Morheim tweeted one of our articles, and it was making fun of Blizzard. You know, and so it's cool that they have those companies. The people there have a sense of humor about it. But you know, it is sad that, you know, like we're not getting embraced as well in Starcraft than it was our original game.
But it's your original game, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
this
is.
is what I mean. So I'm talking about for you specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty positive person. I try not to be, you know, too negative about things. So I just see something. If it's not how it's going, I tend to like just try and put a positive spin and move on. I'm not gonna like never watch Starcraft again or something because they didn't support my Kickstarter, but you know, it just means there's just going to be less Starcraft content. That's it's a reality of the situation. So it's not a vindictive thing or anything. It's just we have to allocate resources in a certain way, and it'll be mostly League and Dota, and maybe we'll do some Hearthstone and like do some CS:GO, hopefully, that kind of thing. Plenty of drama in that.
I was going to say, man, the vaccaning, it's happening.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you're going to do a League of Legends Kickstarter, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Any idea where you're going to set the bar?
I think it'll be about the same as Dota. I don't want to make any statements about, you know, like we want more money here or there. So it'll probably be about the same as Dota. And we'll try and work with some people, get some good rewards for that, and hopefully we'll get there on that one.
I think the League of Legends community will definitely embrace it. Actually, you've always seemed to get a good pop from the League of Legends community.
Yeah, they got a lot of people, so it just sheer number wise, it looks better just there anyway. So yeah, it's also it's like Starcraft. There's been even though it's recently, there's been a lot of positive news. Like Legacy of the Void. Like the last two tournaments, the Takes tournament and BlizzCon have been really fun to watch and like good. But in general, like the Starcraft community is kind of, at best, it's lukewarm about stuff. There's been a lot of negativity and like. So it's easier to give money and feel excited about things when your community is very positive. So that's another thing that we recognize, that it's,
timing
it's challenging.
Yeah. Great.
So I mean, there's never really a perfect time to do these kind of things. So so I'm curious to see like future projects in StarCraft if they're able to fund or not. I know Takes House.
Yeah, I mean
like it's flex funding, so he gets whatever amount, which I think hurts it a little bit, because it's like, well, if he's going to do it anyway, then should I really? Yeah,
of course, yeah.
But it only funded like a fifth of what it's at right now.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't think they're going to reach their target goal either.
I don't think. I mean, he said it. He said it purposely high because, that would have been the ideal amount to pay off the total loan. But he knew he didn't need the full amount.
Yeah.
It was just giving.
But that's also like,
room.
what do you need to set a super high amount if you're going to do it anyway?
Yeah.
And I can see why people aren't like funding it to the full amount, because it's like, well, he's doing it anyway, right? Similarly, I think Destiny is going to have a tournament. I'm curious about that one, because there's a lot of interesting thoughts about how he handled this whole thing with
Kaz, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder if, I mean, he has a very loyal fan base. Do those people have credit cards? I don't know. Maybe not old enough to get.
I like the implication. Implication.
But
obviously,
we'll
I'm friends with Steven. Worked with him for a long time. I know it just feels like, why are you baiting gamer gators, man? Like, it's just
Well, he's not baiting them; he's rallying them.
Yeah, that's what I mean, though. But it's just nobody's baiting them into sort of just, look, this is a big issue. I don't think that word in particular is worth fighting for, the right to use it.
Yeah, I think In Control had a pretty good video about it. I liked his argument about the whole like, because everyone's first, like, a lot of people are like, well, Parting said it. Well, okay, but that doesn't make it any better.
Yeah, I know.
Like, ideally, he wouldn't say it. So
it's such a classically childish argument, isn't it? That if everyone's saying it, it must be okay. It's just ridiculous.
Or like, it's worse here. So therefore, like, it's like if you get caught for a speeding ticket and you see someone else going really fast, you're like, well.
Yeah. What about that guy?
Yeah. So either catch none of us or all of us. Like that's not. It's a step at a time. So. Yeah, that's my thoughts about it. It's very clear from our article where we stand on it. But in the end, it is just kind of a crazy situation. And of course, it happens in StarCraft. So we'll see. It needs
the drama, I think. StarCraft. I mean, it probably looked around at all the other games, and it was like we needed something. I think Kaz actually did it for the greater good.
Kaz, yeah. Who he immediately apologized, and that was it.
Yeah.
And he's like in the headlines for the next like 2 weeks. Yeah.
That's how it is. So here's a question. What happens if, I don't know, worst comes to the worst and the StarCraft Kickstarter, it doesn't go up, and let's say, I don't know, something happens and the Dota money disappears and you don't get it, and then the League of Legends Kickstarter goes belly up and you haven't got any money coming into eSports Express. I mean, what's the worst case scenario for the publication?
The worst case scenario, we're already funded for Dota, so theoretically, let's say I spend it all on hookers and stuff. We're gonna do our coverage for the full year, and then we're gonna see if it's a viable situation after that. Like, it's always dicey with the online publications. You can't just go by ads usually, unless you're, I don't know, BuzzFeed. You can produce an article every hour. I don't think that we can do that. So there's going to be some level of, like, we're probably going to work with on Patreon on some sort of way to have people subscribe. But it will be free for everyone for a foreseeable future. And if it's always at risk. So if it doesn't work out and we're not sustainable, then we're not sustainable. And the world loses a valuable resource.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's again why I wanted to support it. Any chance of you? So again, we've talked about this. I know if you wanted to make money, you are a trained lawyer, right?
I went to law school and I did pass the bar, but I'm not registered anywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, you could probably just get the.
I'm not gonna be a lawyer, dude. Never.
Never?
Nah.
I
hate it.
Kind of feels like law school was a bit of a waste then.
Well, a lot of people don't figure out what they don't want to do.
True.
So if it's 3 years of figuring out that I don't want to do something and I want to work for myself in esports and do something I love, then 3 years is not a long time, actually.
My first degree was philosophy. The most useless.
All right.
I'm so glad
I
I
had
switched
a plan
that.
at least, okay?
Yeah. I just went in and was like,
You were just like,
what's the most slacker?
You're gonna be Plato.
Yeah. It didn't quite work out.
Yeah.
But so there's no chance that you would, in the next year, if this goes belly up, you're going to disappear out of esports for
No,
good?
I think I'm gonna be in esports for the long haul. I think I'll find my way some way or the other, whether it's in some organization or not. I'm not super worried. I think it's easy, and well, not easy, but like when you make connections with people and you're able to talk to them, I think that I think I'll be fine, whether eSports Express or not. If not, we'll think of something else, won't we, Richard?
Yeah, we'll improvise.
Yeah.
So any quick plugs? Do you want to give the URL for the Kickstarter or anything like that? It doesn't need to be the Kickstarter. You can plug anything.
Yeah, just esportsexpress.com. That's our website. You can read Satire articles there. If you search for Esports Express, Starcraft or Dota or Kickstarter, you can find that on Google. It'll be probably the first results. And you follow me on Twitter. I'm Hotbid, hot_bid. And that's it.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot for doing the interview. First person as well. So,
I know. I'm kicking it off here.
Yeah.
I don't have any responsibilities this tournament. I'm just here to have fun.
Okay.
So I'm happy to help you out.
Yeah, well, thanks. And look, there's a handshake. There we go. Look, we're all friends now.
Great.
Anyway,
yeah.
we're going to just wrap that up there, but we'll be right back in about, I don't know, give or take 15 minutes with another interview from here in the Twitch lounge at DreamHack Winter.